We've got retro crafts for the casual stroller, so now the power is in your hands, the Bead Nintendo controller. The Bead Nintendo controller is the perfect retro pattern that resembles the classic Nintendo controller. You'll see it looks the same. A simple and fun project that puts you in the game. This nostalgic bead design that looks fine, a blast from the past you'll be able to make in no time. So get ready for this tutorial to satisfy your creative needs. Feel free to give this video a like. Enjoy this episode of TurboBeads. Here's a list of everything you need to make the Bead Nintendo controller. To make the Bead NES controller, the first thing you'll need is a straw, which will split that straw in half since we'll be adding those beads to the straw to make up rows of the pattern. Cutting the straw will make it easier to add beads to it. Watch closely as I carefully cut the straw in half. When cutting the straw down the center, be sure to take your time when cutting with scissors, ensuring that you're careful and staying safe. You'll see that the straw will be used to reinforce a row of beads, keeping them straight and aligned and in place. Now that that straw is cut, we are now ready to start adding beads to the straw. So let's go ahead and take the straw that's been split down the center and add 12 gray beads to that straw. As I've said before, because the straw is cut down the center, it makes it much easier to add beads to it. Now that we have those 12 gray beads on the straw, this is what it should look like. As you can see, all of the beads are aligned and secured. From here, we'll need to trim off the ends of the straw so that the straw is flush with the beads, keeping it looking clean. Let's go ahead and carefully cut off the ends of the straw to keep that straw from showing to the sides. Now that the ends of the straw are cut off looking just like this, we are now ready for the next steps. So from here, we'll take 15 feet of string and we're going to run that string through those 12 gray beads that were added to that straw. So watch closely as I guide the string through these beads. Once you have that string all the way through those beads, you'll take both ends of string and match them up. Then you'll push those beads toward the center of the string. This will ensure that we have the same amount of string to use on both sides. With the beads in the center of the string, this will be the first row of the pattern. Once you have the first row of beads in the middle of the string, you want to be sure to keep those beads from moving and remain in the same spot to ensure that we have equal lengths of string to use on both sides to work with. So just make sure everything stays in place. With this first row finished, we're now ready to create the next row. So to make the next row, you'll take that straw that's been split in half and we'll add 12 beads to that straw. For this row, we'll have 10 black beads with a gray bead on each end. That's a total of 12 beads. Now that you have those 12 beads on that straw, we can now carefully cut off the ends of that straw to keep the straw from showing through the sides. Now that the ends of the straw are cut flush with the beads, this is exactly how it should look. As you can see, we're now ready to attach this row of beads with the previous row. So you'll take one end of the string and run that string through all of those beads that have been added to that straw. Watch close as I guide the string through these beads. When you get that string through those beads, you can now take the other end of string and you can run it through all of those beads as well, going in the opposite direction. Again, watch close as I guide the string through these beads. Once you have that string through all of those beads, you should have an end of string coming out of both sides, that string on each end. With that string coming out of each end of those beads, you'll pull both ends of the string evenly until you've reached the top, bringing all of those beads together. As you can see, the beads have come together and the pattern should look just like this. With the second row finished, we're now ready to make the next row, which is just as simple as the previous row. So to make the third row, we will once again cut a straw down the center and add 12 beads to that straw using this specific pattern. Now that we have those beads on the straw, we'll carefully cut off the ends of that straw to keep that straw from showing through the sides. Then you can take one end of the string and run it through all of those beads that have been added to that straw. Watch and see as I guide the string through these beads. Now that you have one end of the string through those beads, you'll take that other end of string and run it through all of those beads as well, going in the opposite direction. Continue watching as I guide the string through these beads. And as a quick tip, if you're having a hard time getting that string through all of those beads, you can push that string on one side as much as it'll go Then pull the string on the other side and the other end of string will follow, just like this. As you see here, we have both ends of string through all of those beads. Now that the string is coming out of each side, you can pull both ends of the string until you reach the top, bringing all of those beads together. From this point, we'll continue repeating the same steps when creating additional rows by adding 12 beads to a split straw with the ends cut off, then taking one end of the string and running that string through all of those beads that were added to that straw. Of course, you'll get that string through all of those beads, then you'll take that other end of string and run it through all of those beads as well, going in the opposite direction. And then, when you have that string through all of those beads, with the string coming out of each side, you'll pull both ends of the string until you reach the top, bringing all of those beads together. So just keep repeating these steps, creating additional rows, following the pattern as seen at the top of the screen. As you can see, this bead project should be pretty easy to make, with its simple steps of creating bead rows of 12 that make up the shape and image of the classic Nintendo controller. Be sure to take your time when assembling each row, making sure that you follow and place the beads in the correct order as shown at the top of this video. You'll pull both ends of the string evenly to ensure that you have the same amount of string to use on both ends. Of course, you'll use a straw for each row, reinforcing that row of beads, keeping those beads straight, aligned, and in place. Remembering to carefully cut off those ends of the straw to keep that straw from showing through the sides. While assembling this project, you'll also notice that it uses a large amount of beads and string, but regardless of the amount of supplies needed to create it, the end result is well worth it. From this point, you should start to see the image of the controller coming together, but we're only halfway there. For those who remember the classic Nintendo system, this will definitely be a blast from the past. So here's a question: have you ever had a Nintendo or remember playing any games from the classic system? Leave a comment below and let me know what kind of games you enjoyed playing. And as a quick reminder, be sure that you pull both ends of string evenly to ensure that you have the same length of string to use on both sides. That way everything turns out correctly and you aren't short on any of the string. When you reach the 18th row, you'll start to see the red buttons for this bead controller come into play, which I think is the perfect color that helps these buttons stand out. So here's another question for you. If you could change the colors of this controller, what other colors would you use? Feel free to let me know with a comment below. For those who are still watching, you can definitely see the pattern so far, which I'm sure that you already know that the different colors in the correct order will create the image of this controller. As you will notice that the D-pad or directional buttons are within the first 8 rows. Then, the start and select buttons are in the midsection of this pattern. And then, we have the A and B buttons near the end of the pattern with the red beads above those buttons to represent the Nintendo logo on the controller. And to make the colors pop and make the buttons stand out, the white beads are used to space out and outline these buttons. Continue assembling this project as we are near the final rows. The 25th row is the final row that consists of 12 gray beads, which is the outline color of this controller. So once you finish the 25th and final row, you'll tie off each end of string with a knot to lock all of those beads in place. When tying the string together, be sure that your knot is tied nice and secure to ensure that the knot remains tied and everything stays together. As you can see, this is the perfect example of how your knot should look. Remember, we're tying off both ends of string with knots that are tied nice and secure to ensure that everything stays together, locking all of those beads into place. With this visual reference, tying your knot should be pretty easy to figure out. With those knots tied and everything locked into place, all that is left is to carefully cut off the tied loose ends of string, and your bead Nintendo controller is now complete. And there you have it, another retro radical video game bead design that was simple but fun to make. Hopefully this tutorial was helpful and you can create one just as great. If there's anything you'd like to add, requests or suggestions, feel free to leave a comment below. And if you are new, or you just haven't already, don't forget that you can always subscribe if you want to be notified for more bead tutorials just like this one. Hoping you'll tune in for the next one to satisfy your creative needs. Until next time, as always, power to the players. Thanks for watching TurboBeads.